Hey, this is Jim from Goldhand Drawings. Today I'll be comparing watercolor papers from CANSON. I have montval, which is cellulose paper, 0% cotton, and aquarelle, which is 60% cotton, and heritage, 100%. I think it would be nice to make a mini series of watercolor paper comparison, and picking one of the most easily found watercolor papers to start with is a good idea. All of them is about A4 size, slightly over A4. It's like 24 by 32, 23 by 31, and also 23 by 31. montval cost about $10 for two in Korea. They always do a 1+1 sale. So 24 sheets, 40 cents per page. This 60% cotton is about $16 and 20 sheets. So 80 cents per page. But the thing is, I couldn't find just a one side glued one. I only could find the block one. So I'm guessing it will be cheaper than 80 cents per page if I get the side glued like the others. And the heritage was about $14, I think. It's 12 sheets, so slightly over $1 per page. So 40 cents, less than 80 cents, and slightly over $1 comparison. Okay, so first of all, I like all three cover designs. The montval actually shows what we can achieve with this paper. Very kind. Aquarelle looks like some kind of vintage wallpaper. It's very fancy. And heritage, I really like the balloon illustrator on it. It kind of looks like a modern kids' room wallpaper. I also like the crest looking design. All fantastic. All looks nice, I think. So this is how it looks when I open it, the heritage. And the CANSON looks like this. montval. Okay, so I can already tell that this heritage is much expensive than montval because they wrote how great their paper is in 10 different languages. No Koreans. The aquarelle, the writing are in the back in 8 different languages. And the montval, they didn't write how great their paper is. It's just a essential information on the back in 5 different languages. And if I have to talk about paper color, the aquarelle 60% cotton one is more to traditional white, and these two are more to the extra white. In my point of view, the paper color is one of the most important elements in watercolor. Since watercolor is transparent, the overall mood of your painting can be determined by the color of your paper. And if you paint on a dull type, I guess your artwork will have a settled or calm mood. And if you paint on a bright white like these, your drawings will stand out. So I guess if you're botanical or I don't know, like a bird drawer, I guess it's better to paint on a bright white paper. And if you draw like a let's say, historical architecture buildings, then I guess this neutral type color will be more suitable. The surface of the paper, I think the montval has the smoothest texture, and Heritage and Aquarelle kind of have similar roughness. But Heritage, this one has a little bit more consistent small grains, which I really don't prefer. I like irregular grains much more than the consistent one. Like I said, watercolor is transparent, so the paper texture will show after you paint, and if the grain pattern is small and consistent, it might be very distracting. So I'm not a big fan of this Heritage texture type. Okay, so now I'm going to draw and write with a pencil to see how graphite lead reacts to the paper. So they all perform perfectly, but if I have to pick the best, montval erase the cleanest, and the fountain pen, they all perform well. No feathering or any weird or inconsistent things happen while I was using it. All good. Now I'll use a new paper to see how the papers react to heavily loaded water. I'll use my synthetic mop brush, this one, Tintoretto, fully loaded with water and spread out evenly as possible. We do need to check how much the paper will warp or ripples. Also see if they flatten out after when it's fully dried. Montval is warping crazy right now. We have to see later if it's going to counter warp it or ripples after it dries. Aquarelle is also warping, but not as much as the montval, and Heritage also warps, but a little bit less than Aquarelle. Let's see if it will flatten down when it dries. Okay, so all three of them are fully dried, I think. And I think it took about an hour for montval to fully dry. And after when montval was fully dried, aquarelle was like 90% dried, I think. And feel quite a lot of moisture on the heritage at that time. And while drying, montval were counter warping crazy and ended up like this. I mean, the intensity of warping is crazy. I mean, aquarelle also warped, but not as much as the montval. I mean, I don't know how to show you guys. If I show it like this. So starting from the left is montval, the middle one is aquarelle, and the one on my right hand is heritage. And heritage also warped, but not as much as the aquarelle, but it's pretty similar. And they all counter warped, and they didn't actually flatten down. These two are, I think, okay. If you tape it down, I don't think it's going to be a big problem. But the montval, I'm not really sure, because it counter warped it really crazy. I mean, man, this is intense. Okay, so now I'll go back to my previous paper to test some effect, because this is all flat right now. This one, I don't think I can use it. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm gonna load a generous amount of water here and do some like 3 drops of paint with the spoid, and to see how the pigments spread. Okay, so it is slightly dried, so I'll do the evaluation. First, I think all 3 of them spread it quite okay. Heritage, they spread it almost evenly to every direction. The montval, I think the paint actually didn't soak into the paper. And the aquarelle, if I have to talk about the aquarelle, the spreading distance is a little bit longer than the heritage, and I think that's because the heritage can soak the water and paint a little bit faster than aquarelle, so that's why the length of the heritage is not spreaded as much as the aquarelle. And this part, I don't know why this happened, but I'm guessing this is my fault. Maybe I touched this place with my finger, so there's a little bit of oil. That's why it didn't soak in here. But I don't know the real reason, but I don't think it's the paper that does this. I think it was me. I mean, it's not this bad, right? So yeah, so I think all 3 of them were kind of okay. So next, I'll do a straight brush strokes on the wet surface, and this time I won't wet the paper crazy. I'll just do just enough to wet the surface. Okay, so let's start with the montval. can see that the montval is not spreading at all. I think it's because the water is not fully penetrating into the paper, so that's why there's no like a feathering effect like this. Acrylic and heritage, the water soaks in, so it has a little bit of spreading, and the spreading of acrylic is a little bit more longer than the heritage, just like the first experiment, because water soaking into the paper is a little bit slower than the heritage. That's why the spreading distance is a little bit broader than the heritage. Okay, so now I think I'll do a lifting test. One time I'll lift it right away, and the second one I'll lift it after like 10 minutes, I think. Okay, so let's get started. Starting with the montval. So montval lifted up pretty good. Now testing the acrylic. I think I did too much water. I don't know if you guys can see it, but the acrylic, they also lift up pretty well, but just a tiny bit is a little bit stained. So the paint actually soaked in way faster than the montval. Now let's test the heritage. Okay, so heritage, the paint is more staining. The paint actually went inside the paper quite faster than the acrylic. We can already see the difference. This one is a little bit more stained. So heritage, I guess, is actually good quality paper than the acrylic. They all lifted quite okay, but I can say heritage is a better paper, I guess, than the montval or acrylic, because it did got stained a little bit more than the acrylic or montval. Montval was actually, it's almost white, I would say. So this is like the paper that's not that good. So I'll wait about 10 minutes and then try to lift up the this side to see how it works. Okay, so I waited actually about like 25 minutes, and now let's see how it lifts off after 25 minutes. Okay, after 25 minutes, I tried to lift it up, but I don't know if you guys can see it. If you guys see it over here, the paper gets damaged. So this is really not that good. I didn't expect it to be this bad, but anyway, it is like this. Now let me test the acrylic. It does get lifted a bit, but it is stained, so it's about this much. And now the heritage. So like Heritage, and this is Aquarelle. Heritage got stained a little bit more than Aquarelle, so the paint actually soaked into the paper more than the Aquarelle. So I can say the Heritage is a little bit better than Aquarelle. Now I'll do a blending test. One side as a wet on wet and one side as wet on dry. Okay, so let's sit and wait until it dries a bit, and then I'll go with the evaluation. So now it's almost dried. The Heritage on the wet on wet blending technique, I think it blended very smoothly and nicely. I think this is very, this paper is workable. And on the Aquarelle, it did blend it, but not as smooth as the Heritage. So I can see that it's a little bit less expensive. And the montval, I really had a hard time controlling the paint or the water because I think I actually didn't have any control at all. I mean, the paint was just not working the way I really wanted, so I was like keep touching it, so there's a little bit of backwash happening over here. So this montval wasn't that good, you know. Now on the wet on dry blending, the Heritage, it has some hard lines, but it did have like enough time to actually interact with each other. And the Aquarelle, it didn't have enough time, so that's why they have some like a very messy line happening over here. And the montval, it did blend it a little bit better than Aquarelle, I think, but the color vibrancy too dull compared to the Aquarelle or Heritage. So this montval, I don't think I can really actually recommend it to beginner or to even professional. I mean, I cannot recommend this to anybody. Heritage, I think I can recommend because it actually works as a watercolor paper. This one I can definitely tell is a little bit cheaper than the Heritage because the effect is a little bit less pretty. So okay, so let's go with the last experiment, which is the glazing. And I think this might take some time, but I'll do it anyway. Okay, so I did 4 layers of glazing, so I think that's good enough. And this is how it come out: montval, aquarelle, and heritage. And about this montval, it was really hard to do the glazing because the paint didn't soak into the paper. So as I do the second layer, the before layer of the paint was trying to lift off as I keep doing the brush strokes. So this was not that good at all, to be honest. And the color also, the vibrancy was really off. It was just too dull. Aquarelle is actually way better than montval because it did work, but also the color vibrancy is not that good as the heritage. The heritage was really easy to do with. I mean, the paint just soaked in right away, so there wasn't any like paint like floating around, so I don't have to like control anything or move it, you know. It just stayed that way. So this heritage was really not bad. compared to these two. I mean, these two are just not that good, but I do recommend the Heritage for sure. Okay, so for conclusion, I strongly recommend not buying the Aquarelle. I don't think it worth 2 times the montval. I mean, you will feel very bad and hopeless if you use this. I mean, because it didn't work the way it's supposed to, you know. Montval is cheap, so I guess if you practice with this, maybe you can work it out, but I'm not sure. I'm not very certain that you can, because it doesn't do the blending well, not on wet or dry. It doesn't do the glazing. Nothing was actually good except the lifting, so I don't know. You have to use less water than the Heritage or Aquarelle, but if you use too much water, the paint and the water won't soak into the paper, so it's gonna like float in the on the surface. So whenever you do the second layer of painting, the color will lift off, so you have to use less water. But if you use the less water, there won't be enough water to actually use the watercolor paint, so the both way is not that good. Heritage was quite decent, I think. Just only slightly over $1. I think this is quite good. The blending worked really well. Even the glazing was very fine. The color vibrancy was also very good. And the lifting also, it did lift, but not that much. So it was just okay, but not suitable for like your masterpiece artwork. Just for practicing, I think this is the one you should go for. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.